I think one of the biggest questions in Rise of Kingdoms right now is, are Imperiums dying? And this comes to light with the recent news of SW and HMB migrating to a different kingdom and building their own kingdom basically from scratch. So today in this video, we are going to be talking about whether or not I think Imperiums in whole are going to be dying in Rise of Kingdoms, or if they are going to be staying around long term. If you guys are new here, this is Gainz Gaming. We do Rise of Kingdoms content on YouTube, so make sure you guys are subscribed if you are not yet already. But with this video, what I want to talk about is whether or not Imperiums are going to be staying around long term. And the reason why this is so important is because recently Lilith did announce that they were going to be limiting the amount of players that are going to be registering for KVKs. So for example, 1079, the kingdom I am in currently, did just register for KVK, and right now we don't have any issues. We are Imperium at the moment. We did register for Siege of Orleans, and so we are going to be matched in about 3 days now. But in the future, Lilith did announce that they were going to try to limit the amount of players that are eligible to register for KVK. And so, for example, if you have a kingdom that has, 800 players that are going to be fighting in KVK, if I scroll down in power here, just go into like our top 300, if you have like, say, 500 players that are wanting to play, but Lilith only lets you register 300, you have hundreds of players that are not going to be able to play in KVK, and thus are going to be migrating out of that kingdom to be able to play in a different kingdom. And so I think this is one thing that Lilith is really going to do to screw over Imperium kingdoms and really incentivize you to migrate to lower seed kingdoms to allow them to have more balanced matchmaking, which isn't necessarily a bad idea because we do have some kingdoms that are just so insanely powerful. Like for example, 1254 is one of the most powerful kingdoms in the game, and other kingdoms like 1960, 1307, these kingdoms are just insane fighters and they are just so hard to beat. And the reason why is because of how much power they truly have, and not just power, but the amount of fighters they have as well. And so when you have these kingdoms that have, 800, 1,000, 1,200, 1,500 fighters in the field, all of them are max tech. They have all 7 marches, T5 troops, max commanders. They're all in the field fighting. If they get matched with an AC kingdom, there's zero chance that kingdom stands any chance against them. And so I think Lilith is really trying to do this to make sure they can reduce the amount of imbalanced KVKs, which, like I said, it isn't a bad idea. But I think in premise, this whole thing is going to basically get rid of the eligibility of Imperium kingdoms to stay long-term in Rise of Kingdoms. And the main reason why we see that is we see these big kingdoms that are breaking apart. Like for example, we saw 1664 migrate into 1034, reducing the size of their Imperium kingdom and basically taking 1034 into a low A seed into an upper A seed. Still not really Imperium, but they are still a little bit stronger, but they are not as strong as 1664 was in terms of power. And as we see here in 1254, SW announced that they are going to be migrating to a different kingdom as well as HMB. And so these two alliances are going to be migrating to a lower seed kingdom and most likely going to be sitting in a mid or upper A seed kingdom when they are registering for KVK. And the main reason they're trying to do this is to make sure they don't get screwed out of, having no match found, which, we could still get that here in 1079. I don't believe we will because we're not super high up in the amount of power. We were top 10 our last KVK, and then we did drop quite a bit. For this KVK, we did drop into A seed momentarily and then back into Imperium when we had our migrants come in. But like I said before, I do believe that Lilith is going to be incentivizing even more lower seed kingdoms because they are really trying to limit the amount of people in these upper Imperium and upper A seed kingdoms. And one reason we also see that is the autarch rewards. If we can see here in the story, when you get to the end of the season, you're going to have autarch rewards right here. So if you can see in the inscription shop, the autarch limited rewards, these are limited to a certain number of players in the kingdom. And so I don't remember how many exactly it is, but I know it's roughly about 300 to 350 players that are allowed to get these autarch limited rewards. And so you really have to choose which players are going to be getting these rewards, which is a huge reward because like for example, for the wedge formation, you get these really great inscriptions to put on your armaments. Whereas if you don't get the autarch limited rewards, you have to go for one of these, which it isn't bad. Like I got the 3.5% health one my last KVK, but it is a lot better to get these autarch limited rewards. And so Lilith did input this into the game to really reduce the amount of Imperium kingdoms that are going to be, able to give their players the amount of rewards that they want to give. And so, like I said, this is really going to reduce the number of Imperiums, not even just because of their matching ability, but because of the autarch limited rewards. And so this is one thing that is also kind of foreshadowing. I know chisgule made a video today that he also talked about this topic, where he was like, I think, it could be 6 months, it could be a year, it could be a couple months, but we don't know when Lilith is going to input the reducing matchmaking power for the Imperium kingdoms, which is basically just saying the amount of registrations that can be eligible for per kingdom. So whether that's 500 players, 1,000 players, 800 players, we don't know what that's going to look like, but it really could screw some of these bigger Imperiums because like in 1254, for example, they probably have 1,000 plus fighters on the field, but like say Lilith says, we're going to give 600 spots for KVK. That gives 400 people that, are probably lower power that don't get to fight in KVK, which is huge because, that's why you're playing the game. And so reducing that ability for some players to be able to fight is really what's fueling this migration out of 1254. Obviously, there are other implications. I would highly encourage you guys to go check out chisgule's video. He made, I believe it's like a 20-minute video on his migration and just answering all these questions that people are asking. So I highly encourage you guys to go check that video, because he will give you all the answer that you're looking for. But like I was saying before, I do believe that this is foreshadowing for other Imperium kingdoms. I can't speak for 1079 or what my future plans are, because I'm planning on staying here long term. I don't have any plans of leaving right now. But I do think that Imperium kingdoms are going to be taking a huge hit with this new registration policy that is yet to come into the game. And so when we talk about the implications of this registration policy, I do believe that we are going to see a lot of Imperiums that are going to be dropping in Imperium ranking, and going to A seed, or having mass migrations just like 1254 is going to, and dropping Imperium, maybe even going A seed. We could very much see 1254 be an A seed kingdom after this migration out. Obviously, all the players are going to be most likely zeroing themselves during KVK, and that way they have a cheaper migration. I'm pretty sure that Justin, Yoda 808, the strongest player in the game, is going to be migrating as well. They don't have a spot chosen yet, I don't believe. At least they don't have it as public knowledge just yet, but they will most likely be migrating to a lower seed kingdom. I would presume a D, C, or low B seed kingdom, because by the time they get all their players into that kingdom, they are going to most likely be a low A, mid A, or upper A seed kingdom, potentially even hitting Imperium, depending on where they line up and how many people come with them, because this is a public project. It's not just people in SW that are going, or HMB as well, but there's going to be more people that are coming out of the woodworks and rejoining the game, because they're having people that have quit that are now going to be coming back and joining these guys in this new kingdom. And obviously we will most likely have some people that aren't going to join them. Like we might have some people that like, I just want to stay in 1254. Like this is where I started. This is where I want to stay. And obviously we're going to have that, but you might have people that really just want to follow Yoda, or really just want to follow chisgule, which is totally understandable. Because chisgule is the most popular Rise of Kingdoms content creator, and Justin is the highest power player in the game. So it makes total sense for people that would want to follow these players to this new kingdom. One ironic thing, I feel bad for Justin. I mean, I know he probably has thousands of passports, but he literally just migrated to 1254, and now he is going to be migrating again, most likely. So I feel bad for him having to do like a flip-flop, because, he has tons of resources, mass trained tons of troops for this KVK, and now they're going to be leaving right away. Obviously, he'll probably still drop hundreds of millions of power, but it will be fun to see him fight, because, obviously he's probably not going to zero himself. I don't think he'll even be able to with how much fighting they're going to have. But he will be able to drop a lot of power. I know chisgule said he'll probably try to zero himself in this KVK, or, obviously a lot lower than 150 million power. And he'll probably, end up about my power at like 80 million by the end of this KVK, because, you do get 50% back. And they'll most likely try to migrate before they get those troops back, because that way they'll be able to get as many people in as possible. So that's probably going to be their strategy, to get as many people in as possible without having to hit any power caps during that migration, and that way they can get all their players in that they really want to get in. So I think the biggest question that you have to ask yourself here is whether or not you are planning to migrate. If you are currently in an Imperium kingdom and you are, I would say, in the bottom 300, if you're below 300 in power, I would be pretty worried about your place in that kingdom, because if they do limit the amount of players that can register for KVK, those would be the people that would have to worry about not being able to register with that KVK. Not just power, but also individual kills. If you are below 300 in your individual kills, I would also worry about not being able to register in KVK, because obviously they're going to want to have the best fighters and the highest power in the KVK. And so if you are below rank 300, and obviously like I don't think it's going to be 300 cutoff, because that's pretty low for their cutoff. I believe it's probably going to be, you know, 600, 500, 800 when they do put that into the game. But I would say if you are in those two situations, if you are below rank 300 in kills or rank 300 in power, that would be something to be a little bit more worried about, mainly because, you know, you want to ensure your spot in KVK. And you just can't really do that unless you are, you know, in the top 300 by power, because those are the people that really count toward matchmaking and the people that you expect to be in KVK. And so that's why I say being in the top 300 puts you in a safe spot for KVK and doesn't guarantee you a spot in that KVK, but it does ensure that you are in the top 300. You did count toward matchmaking, so there's a pretty safe assumption that you would be in that KVK and you would not have to worry about not getting registered when they do put those stops on there. But I would say if you are below that rank 300, if you are in that like rank 400, 500, 600, 800 plus, that would be something to consider migrating to a lower seed kingdom, whether that's migrating back to KVK 2, which I don't really recommend. KVK 3 will soon have Season of Conquest commanders in there, so that could be an eligible position for you to end up in, and then also just a lower seed Season of Conquest kingdom. And obviously there's going to be a lot of people, there's going to be a lot of poachers in these Imperium kingdoms that are going to be coming in and asking, hey, do you want to come to my C seed kingdom? Because, you know, you'll for sure get in KVK, you'll be one of our main fighters. So there's going to be a lot of poaching in the next couple months in Rise of Kingdoms, especially in these Imperium kingdoms, because, you know, they're just going to have a lot more players that are going to be eligible for that migration into that lower seed kingdom. So if you guys have any other questions about this topic, feel free to leave them in the comments below and I'll be happy to answer them. If you guys have any comments or suggestions on what people can do or any feedback that you want to leave on this video, please drop it down below in the comments. Make sure, again, you guys like and subscribe to this video. It helps me out tremendously, totally free to play for you. So again, if you guys enjoyed the video, drop a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.